World of Warcraft has an absolute ton of mounts in the game, but some of them are a little bit more degenerate to obtain than the others. So in this video, I'm going to be running through 10 of those grinds that are pretty degenerate. The first grind up on this list is going to be the Argent Tournament. This does have a lot of mounts involved in it, most of them being kind of recolors of the base faction mounts, but it does take about 60 to 70 days of doing pretty much the same dailies every day to get this done. So it ends up being a grind that a lot of people burn out of because they don't want to do the same repetitive dailies every day for months, or they don't want to do the Trial of the Crusader dungeon anymore. So this ends up being a grind that a lot of people don't end up finishing. They'll get a couple of the mounts, but to get all of them, you're going to be putting in a lot of work doing pretty repetitive content. Before we move on to the rest of this list, I am going to be approaching this as if people are starting on these grinds from fresh, because some of these grinds are easier if you've been playing for like 10 years plus, but if you're new to the game, then it makes the grind a lot worse, right? So that's kind of the approach we're doing. So the next one on this list is going to be the Otterworldly Ottuk, and this requires you to get 500 unique mounts usable on one character. Now, as I said, if you've been playing for years, getting 500 mounts probably isn't too bad. You've probably got way more than that now, if you've been focusing on mounts at least. But imagine starting in Shadowlands or even Dragonflight, you have a big daunting task ahead of you to obtain 500 mounts. That is going to be a big amount of time investment, research on figuring out which mounts to go for, how to obtain them. There's going to be tons of different content that you need to take part in. So at the end of the day, that is going to be a big degenerate grind to get yourself from 0 to 500 mounts, especially if you've only been doing this for a short period. However, if you are looking to get help with reaching your first 400 mounts, then when I hit 100k subscribers, which I'm really close to now, less than 1,000 to go, then I'll be releasing a spreadsheet running through 400 of the easiest mounts to obtain. And not only that as well, I'll be giving away 2 copies of the epic edition of the War Within. So that'll come with the mount, the pet, basically all the best stuff you can get from the various versions. The next grind up is going to be the Island Expedition mounts, and there's going to be kind of 2 different mount pools that you can get from Island Expeditions. First of all, there'll be the 2 that you can purchase directly from the vendor. These will cost you 1,500 doubloons total, and then you'll have the ones that are just RNG, and you'll get these based on the mob types that you find on the island itself. So some of them just may not be available depending on which mobs appear on the island. You can also purchase these or have a chance of purchasing these from the crates, but the crates have a limited pool of mounts in them as well. So if you're after a specific mount, the crate might not be there for the week, and you'll have to save your doubloons for another week. Now this was made a little bit better now that we can do these solo, or if you're in a 3-man group, you'll be able to speed farm them. But even then, it's still going to be quite a slow process. You are relying on RNG quite heavily as well, and it's just not very fun. Once you've done a few hundred islands, you're just like, please, no more. And it takes quite a bit of time before you can purchase each box as well, so you're not getting that like box RNG dopamine hit. You're going through multiple runs, getting nothing, and getting your bag filled of random crap as well while you're at it. The next mount up is going to be the Arcadian War Turtle, and to get this mount, you need to get your hands on 150 curious coins, which drops from various kind of Legion content, from mythic dungeons to raid bosses to even the kind of emissary caches as well. So you're going to have a few different sources for these, but the drop chance is kind of atrociously bad. But for some of you, you're probably thinking it wasn't too bad because you were actively playing through Legion and you were just getting the coins passively as you went along. You were getting them from your weekly raid clears, from your mythic plus dungeons, all that kind of stuff. But going back into Legion content now, even though you can clear the dungeons and raids quite quickly, you're still not going to be seeing those coins very often. So this is going to be months of grinding to get your hands on the 150, and then to add a little bit of salt to your wound, once you do get your 150, the item isn't always available for purchase, so you're gonna have to keep checking the vendor every day until his random stock ends up being the one that you need and you can purchase your Arcadian War Turtle. Next up, we have another Legion mount, and that is going to be the Ivory Hawkstrider. And first of all, it doesn't look that great, especially for the work involved in this. It's basically just a slightly different tone of the White Hawkstrider, and to get this mount nowadays, it's going to be quite painful. First of all, you'll have to get your hands on one of the 4 Falcosaur mounts, which isn't too bad. It'll take you multiple days of going through kind of little daily quests with your little hatchling, and once that's done, you'll hand that in and you'll get a Falcosaur. And then you'll head over to High Mountain and you'll get access to a secret reputation called the Talon's Vengeance. And from here, it's pretty much going to be based on PvP. The first item you'll gain access to is the Ivory Talon, which will allow you to kill both Horde and Alliance players, but you can only do it out in the world in the Legion-based PvP zone, so there's not going to be many people around for that. Later on though, once you do get to Honored, you'll be able to purchase the Ivory Feather, which will allow you to use it in Battlegrounds, but getting from Neutral all the way to Honored is going to be quite a grind because you're going to have to use that Ivory Talon. A lot of people use a second account or a friend that will kind of let them kill them over and over again, or they'll kind of swap kills, as that's going to be your more reliable method of getting this done. But either way, it is going to be pain to get that rep to Exalted to purchase the mount. The next one on this list will be the Keys to Model W, which requires you to complete the meta achievement Mecha Done, which is a bunch of different tasks across Mechagon. And once again, coming back to this content, if you didn't do it in current, it's going to be an absolute pain. So you're going to have to do a ton of different daily quests. You're going to have to keep going back to the island every day and hope for the RNG of the daily quest to be there. You're going to have to craft a ton of different items using spare parts or the energy cells. And if you don't have gold to spare, grinding out the spare parts can take quite a while. And that wouldn't be too bad if it was the only thing you needed to use spare parts for, but some of these achievements also require you to throw down spare parts as well, like the Junkyard Machinist requires you to construct 100 different projects across Mechagon, which is going to cost you thousands and thousands of spare parts as well. Not only that as well, you're going to have to kill every single rare on the island and collect every single crafting recipe on the island as well. Some of these coming from rare spawns, some of them coming from kind of events, some of them coming from Paragon reputations. I know how much people love Paragon reps, so that's going to take you a ton of time, and then you're going to have very low drop items as well. So it's just an absolute nightmare that's going to take a ton of grinding and a ton of time and multiple months to get this finished. And that's very similar to the next mount on our list, which is going to be the Snapback Scuttler. And the funny thing is, both of these mounts came in the same patch. So if you really like these long tedious grinds, you got two of them in the same patch. So you were having some fun. Everyone else was having multiple months of suffering though. And the Undersea Usurper was very similar as well, where you'd have to kill all of the rares, you'd have to go do various quest lines, you'd have to wait for RNG World Quest to be available, you'd have to do months of doing this once a week quest until you got all the criteria done. You had to level 3 of your followers to max level, which once again was doing very tedious daily quests every day for months until you got those all to max level as well. So it just wasn't the funnest grind to do, but the crab at the time was pretty cool, so it did feel worth it. The next degenerate grind to talk about is the Protoform Synthesis from Shadowlands, and man, this grind was a grind. You really had to grind to get all of the mounts. I mean, just the Genesis moat aspect of things to get them all done was hours and hours and hours of grinding pretty much the same mobs to get all the Genesis moats needed. But not only that, some people would argue that the Genesis moat side of things was the better aspect of the grind in some ways at least, because some of the recipes came from the weekly quest, they came from the Paragon cache, and this was a slow reputation to get a Paragon cache for. You were waiting multiple weeks before you got a Paragon cache. You'd open it, disappointment, get back to rep grinding until you can get your next Paragon cache. Some of them were low drop from the raid, some of them were low drop from mobs in the zone, so you had a lot of grinding to do in various sources for these, and some of these becoming a lot more painful now that the content isn't being done as actively as it used to be. The next on the list is going to be the Pureheart Courser, and this requires you to get 100 reputations to Exalted. And once again, if you've been playing for a long time, you probably have way over 100 reps, but coming into this as a new player or someone who's not done reps actively, 100 reps is going to take a very long time. There's some reps that you can knock out quickly, sure, but 100 of them, some of them are going to be taking you at least 8 to 10 hours, and you're going to have to do 100 of those. So this is a grind that you're going to have to do proactively every day for months until your eyes bleed and you get your 100 reps to get the mount. The final one to talk about is going to be the prestigious Bloodforged Courser, and this requires you to get 500 honor levels, which even if you were doing one honor level a day, would take you 500 days of proactively doing PvP in some way, shape or form to be able to get this mount, and that is going to be a long grind. Now, some people did get their hands on this mount easy by taking advantage of the honor grind cheese that you could do for a short period of time, and some people got it a little bit easier when they combined all the honor levels together as well. But once again, for someone coming into this new, getting 500 honor levels is going to be quite the grind, especially if you're not someone who likes PvP. Then it becomes something they might not even be able to stomach to complete. So those are 10 of the grinds that I feel are the most degenerate within the game. What are your thoughts? Are there some grinds I missed out or that you think should be on this list? Either way, look out for more videos coming soon. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.